have been recommendations that if people are sensitive to air conditions, to stay inside, but no shelter in place right now has been ordered. And John, if you can hear me, we'll try again.
I can hear you.
Okay.
So I've been in contact with Contra Costa Hazardous Materials Division and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and I did also speak with Chevron. According to our Hazardous Materials Division, there was a problem in the de-asphalting unit at the refinery, which caused the need for this emergency flaring. This is not normal flaring, this is emergency flaring, and it's done in order to minimize the risk of something worse happening. And the result of that were that gases were released for 4 flares. The Hazardous Materials Division tells me that the flaring event had stopped, and that there were hydrocarbons, carbon dioxide, particulate matter, and other yet to be determined compounds that were released. And they had inspectors on site monitoring the community fence line monitors. They determined that due to the wind conditions, there was not a need to have a shelter in place. They will continue to monitor that, and we'll know more as the evening goes on.
John, I know you remember the 2012 Chevron fire. 10 to 15,000 people needed treatment then. Is there a concern with the refinery so close to so many people that this emergency flaring took place? Again, not something that happens all the time.
Well, obviously, anytime there are hazardous materials released in the air, those always have the potential to pose health risks. Then it's determined what individual sensitivities are, how close they are, what the wind conditions are. So it is never safe or healthy to have this type of release. According to our Hazardous Materials and Health Department, they did not make a determination to have shelter in place because they were monitoring the fence line monitors and did not see anything at the ground level. That does not mean that there were not hazardous materials in the air. So that will be further analyzed, I'm sure, by the Hazardous Materials and Health Division during the course of the evening. They did just tell me that the gases and smoke were beginning to dissipate as the flaring ended, but that doesn't mean there isn't still materials in the air.
Again, the gases were coming out of 4 flares earlier tonight when this started a couple hours ago, down to 1 flare before we talked. And John, you're now saying that the flaring is out and that the gases will continue to subside. When do you think the potential problem for folks who might be sensitive to air quality issues, when do you think the problem will be over for them?
Hazardous materials inspectors are out in the field. They're going to continue to monitor, and I am told, again, that the flaring itself has ended, but that doesn't mean that there are not still hazardous materials in the air. But again, they will continue to monitor to determine if a shelter in place is necessary, and have not determined that one is necessary right now.
All right, John Goy, Supervisor, Contra Costa County, we greatly appreciate your time tonight and your information. Again, the incident at the Chevron refinery in Richmond, flaring, emergency flaring. The flaring is now out, but that does not necessarily mean that the gases are no longer coming out. So we'll continue to monitor this situation and have updates for you throughout the evening on air and online, KRON4.com. Pam.
With what's being called an ambush and an assassination in Brooklyn. Police say Ismail Brinsley was armed when he walked up to 2 New York police officers sitting inside a patrol car. He opened fire, then ran into a nearby subway station where he committed suicide. Tonight, we are learning just hours before this tragedy, Brinsley shot his ex-girlfriend in Baltimore. Richard Reeve is in the newsroom with where the investigation stands right now. Richard?
Yeah, Autry, the shooting has sent shockwaves across New York. Even before this, the city was tense following the chokehold death of Eric Garner by police. But tonight, protest leaders are among those decrying the killing of the 2 officers. Mayor Bill de Blasio says his city is in mourning.
This Brooklyn neighborhood, now on lockdown.
They got shot in the car, whatever. They were sitting here.
After Saturday's ambush shooting of 2 NYPD officers.
They were quite simply assassinated. Targeted for their uniform.
Police say around 2:45 in the afternoon, the gunman, identified as 28-year-old Ismail Brinsley of Baltimore, walked up to a marked squad car and opened fire.
He took a shooting stance on the passenger side and fired his weapon several times through the front passenger window, striking both officers in the head.
Both officers, Wenjian Liu and Rafael Ramos, were killed. Investigators say Brinsley then fled to a nearby subway station and fatally shot himself in the chest.
What are we living in Dodge City or something like that? It doesn't happen like this. Who does this?
Authorities believe earlier in the day, Brinsley shot and wounded his girlfriend in Baltimore, then used her Instagram account to post about shooting police in retaliation for the death of Eric Garner, who died after being held in a chokehold by an NYPD officer.
When a police officer is murdered, it tears at the foundation of our society.
The mayor didn't mince words about the shooting.
It is an attack on all of us. It's an attack on everything we hold dear.
Even community activists marching in protest of the police shootings of Michael Brown and Garner called the violence unacceptable.
That means there's no respect. There's no respect. Everybody is just haywire, and everybody just needs to get on their knees and pray.
Now, police say a silver handgun was recovered where Brinsley shot himself. His final Instagram post included an image of a silver handgun. Investigators are trying to learn whether Brinsley had attended any police protests. This is the 7th time since 1972 the two NYPD officers riding together have been murdered. Live in the newsroom, Richard Reeve, ABC 7 News.
Richard, thank you. And New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has ordered all flags lowered to half staff out of respect to the fallen officers. And earlier tonight, Attorney General Eric Holder released a statement condemning the deadly shootings. It reads in part, "This was an unspeakable act of barbarism, and I was deeply saddened to hear of the loss of these two brave officers in the line of duty." Holder says the Justice Department will offer any resources needed to help in the investigation.
That's it. That's the tornado.
Massive and deadly tornadoes ripping through the southeast as bad weather complicates holiday travel for millions. The National Weather Service flashing tornado warnings
A tornado warning has been issued at 11:45 p.m.
across TV screens in 5 states. Parts of Mississippi now in a state of emergency after a tornado touched down 90 miles south of Jackson, killing at least 4 people. Downed trees and power lines blocking traffic on a main thoroughfare, roofs of businesses, and the wall of this warehouse blown right off. One resident pulling a dog to safety from a destroyed home. Meanwhile, heartbroken store owners embrace outside their demolished flower shop. The storm system knocking out power to over 6,000 residents in Mississippi alone. Inside this heavily damaged daycare center, a holiday miracle. 35 children and 7 staffers race for safety after the powerful tornado ripped the roof clear off, all making it out with no injuries. In Louisiana, a tornado touched down twice 70 miles north of New Orleans, uprooting trees, reportedly damaging some 20 homes and leaving nearly 2,000 residents without power. Another suspected tornado snapping trees in half in South Georgia as the massive storm system also brings up to 8 inches of torrential rain throughout the southeast. The downpour moving up the I-95 corridor as millions hit the road for Christmas, with the potential for flooding from Georgia to New Hampshire.
Well, we have some breaking news out of Missouri this morning. An officer shot and killed a man in Berkeley, a town that actually borders Ferguson, where all the trouble was involving Michael Brown's death. St. Louis County Police say a man identified by a newspaper there as 18-year-old Antonio Martin pointed a gun at an officer. It started while the officer was making a routine check on a gas station. A second man who was with Martin ran. That gas station does have surveillance cameras. Well, protesters are already on the scene, shouting and waving at officers working the scene. St. Louis County Police have been called in to handle the investigation, and any trouble that might break out will keep you updated.
The ISIL threat is sparking a warning about the Memphis-Arkansas bridge. The FBI says there is a possible threat that someone may try to blow up the crossing in the next month. The bulletin says an ISIL operative living in the U.S. has been ordered to blow up the bridge to activate other terrorists in this country. About 56,000 commuters use that bridge every single day. So far, though, the FBI and local police say none of their intelligence gives them much else to go on.
ISIS militants have captured a Jordanian pilot. Jordan's army confirms the plane was brought down during a coalition air raid over the ISIS-controlled province Raqqa, that is in eastern Syria. New photos show the damaged plane. Raqqa is one of the main targets for the U.S.-led coalition in Syria and Iraq. The capture is a major setback for the anti-ISIS alliance. CNN's Barbara Starr is at the Pentagon with the very latest for us this morning. And Barbara, ISIS has also released photos of the pilot.
Very difficult, Randy. They have now released photos of obviously a terrified Jordanian pilot captured by ISIS in Raqqa. Raqqa, of course, in Syria is a major stronghold for the ISIS organization. The Jordanian army, the Jordanian government, even the pilot's family confirming the identity of this man. Now the question is, how was this F-16 brought down? Is it possible that it was shot down as ISIS claims? No confirmation on that. But if that were to be the case, then it poses a real issue for the coalition. How could one of the aircraft become vulnerable to basically what was most likely a shoulder-fired missile, that being the major weapon that ISIS would have in its inventory if it did shoot down the F-16? Look, we really don't know. There could have been a mechanical issue, there could have been a weather issue, any number of things. So all of this under very rapid investigation by the coalition. They want to know what happened, and certainly behind the scenes, I think it's safe to say that, as you would expect, governments are looking at whether there is any way to get this man back to Jordan, back to his family. The Jordanian government already saying very adamantly it holds ISIS responsible for the safety of this Jordanian pilot.